All right, so I came across like a couple weeks ago uh, in my own algorithm or my own echo chamber. And pardon my language on this because it's not the most kind terminology, but it's called retard maxing. Um, and that just kind of threw me off, made me laugh. My friend sent me a link to this, and I'm like, what is this? This is a hell of a combination of words. So I looked into the philosophy on this and I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of fascinating, actually. The word is more like kind of a hook, to get you in there and bait you into the philosophy. But there's so much more. I mean, I didn't just stop there. I went down a rabbit hole because this sounds kind of familiar. This philosophy for a particular way of living or being, and just as some that have started or have been around, like you got like looks maxing, money maxing, sleep maxing, gym maxing, status maxing. You want that at your meeting at work. Even things that used to be normal parts of being alive now sound like a system update for your body and your brain. Eat better. Nutrition maxing. Go to bed. Oh, wow. Let's sleep maxing. Get a haircut. Looks maxing. Have a personality. Charisma maxing. At first, it sounds funny, like I said, but it's almost like internet slang is eating itself. Maxing is not new. The world is new. The platforms are new. The algorithms are new. 24-hour everything is new. But the obsession underneath it, the belief that a person can be measured, improved, ranked, optimized, upgraded, and maybe even saved by changing themselves, that's extremely old. I mean, before anything on the web, TikTok, YouTube, or television, before radio, photography, people were already trying to max out their bodies, faces, morals, social statuses. So this video is not really about a trend. It is about a human habit that's gone way back. The desire to look in the mirror or the puddle and think, am I not finished? People say maxing. They usually mean taking one part of yourself and trying to push it to the highest level possible. Looksmaxxing, for example, is the most famous version. It started online, the self-improvement incel adjacent space in the 2010s. Then moved to mainstream social media, especially TikTok in 2020s, and became a basic groomy skincare fitness posture clothing thingy, and is slinged into dangerous ideas of body modification, surgery, steroids. That is the strange thing about maxing. It can start as drink some water, take care of your skin, stand up straight. It can turn into you are a failed product. Your face determines your future. Your worth is a ranking. You are either optimized or obsolete. Black and white. That is where the train gets dark because maxing turns into like a scoreboard. And once life becomes a scoreboard, you start asking dangerous questions like, am I attractive enough? Am I productive enough? Am I masculine or feminine enough? Am I successful enough? Am I interesting enough? Am I becoming myself or am I just editing myself for approval? America was already obsessed with self improvement. One of the clearest early examples is Benjamin Franklin, the guy that had a key with lightning hitting a kite. He's on money as well. Franklin did not call it maxing. He basically created an 18th century self optimized system. In his autobiography, okay, there were books, he described a plan for moral perfection using a list of 13 virtues like temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, humanity. He tracked his failure in a chart almost like an analog habit tracker. That is important. Franklin was not just saying try to be good, he was turning the self into a project. He broke character in categories, he measured behavior, created a system, and treated personal growth almost like a spreadsheet. There is something deeply human about wanting to become better, but there's also something unsettling about believing every part of yourself has to be monitored. There's another older root of maxing, and stay with me. It is much darker. Phrenology claimed that a person's character, intelligence, and personality could be read through the shape of their skulls. It taught people to believe that the outside the body revealed the truth of the inner person. This matters because some parts of modern maxing still echo this logic. The face predicts your destination and destiny. And that is not just grooming anymore. That is fate disguised as analysis. And that is where self improvement becomes dangerous. When it stops saying you can grow and starts saying you are trapped by your measurements. A haircut can be healthy. Exercise is healthy. Skin care can be healthy. But when every feature becomes a symbol of worth, you're not improving anymore. You're reading yourself like a defect report. The self help industry before any of these screens, Samuel Smiles, he published a book literally called Self Help. It became one of the defining texts of Victorian self improvement culture. The book promoted hard work, thrift, perseverance, character, and individual effort. It became hugely influential in Britain and abroad, including United States. The South is the problem and the tool. You are broken and you are the mechanic. Hmm. That idea fits perfectly into American culture because Americans love reinvention. Charles Atlas became famous for his dynamic tension fitness course, promoted through one of the most memorable advertising campaigns in American history. A classic comic style ad told the story of this skinny young man getting humiliated at the beach, building his body and returning as a confident, muscular man. That ad is basically 20th century looksmacking. A man is publicly shamed. The body is treated as the reason. He buys the system, he transforms himself. He returns with power, confidence, romantic success. It's all there. The insecurity, the humiliation, the fantasy of revenge, the body as destiny, the product as salvation. And it worked because it touched something really deep. Fear of being laughed at, the fear of being invisible, the fear of being physically inadequate, the fantasy that one transformation could fix everything. And that is why maxing is powerful. It does not just sell improvement, it sells relief from shame. Once film and celebrity culture exploded, the idea of self improvement moved into appearance even more intensely. Hollywood created faces that became standards. Actors were not just performers, they became templates. Their hair, teeth, skin, bodies, posture, clothing, lighting, all of it became part of the public investigation, public imagination. People were not only comparing themselves to neighbors anymore, they were comparing themselves to icons, false deities. And then television brought those icons into the living room. Magazines brought them to the grocery store on these little racks before you checked out. And social media made it everyone a tiny little celebrity managing their own brand. That is why Maxing feels more intense now. It is because humans suddenly became vain. It is because comparison became constant. Before you might compare yourself to people in your town, now you compare yourself to the best looking, richest, most edited, most optimized people on earth. The question is, who is the improvement serving? Is it helping you become more alive? Or is it helping you disappear into something else's idea of value? There's a big difference between growth and self erasure. Growth says, I want to become more fully myself. Self erasure says, I want to become acceptable enough to finally stop. And maxing often lives right on that line. One side is healthy effort, the other side is obsession. One side is agency, the other side is fear. One side says, I can change. The other side says, I am worthless unless I change. America has always been a country of reinvention. America loves the makeover. The actor reinvents their image. The teenager reinvents their personality. The adult reinvents their career. Even the country itself is always trying to rebrand. But underneath it all, that is a restless feeling. You are never done. There is always another level, another upgrade, another version, another hustle. The internet did not invent maxing, it accelerated it. The internet did not create this obsession. And what used to take decades of culture now happens in a week. A joke becomes an identity. A grooming tip becomes a worldview. A before and after photo becomes a moral lesson. Hear me out. This is the strange truth. You might or might not agree, but maxing is ridiculous. Funny internet language attached to a very old human fear. Fear built industries. It sold books, it sold magazines, it sold workout courses, it sold cosmetics, religion, sold productivity systems. It sold the American dream. But there's something truly tragic about spending your entire life trying to become a person that strangers will approve of. Maybe the goal is not to max out every category, but maybe the goal is to stop treating yourself like a broken product. Maybe the goal is not optimization. Maybe it's integration to become healthier, but still human, become stronger, but not cruel, confident, but not obsessed, to become yourself, not less. And long after this trend disappears, people will still be standing in front of mirrors, notebooks, cameras, scales, screens, and strangers asking the same old question: what should I become? And maybe the answer is not become perfect. Maybe the answer is become honest.